Good evening and welcome to In Forum at the Commonwealth Club. I'm Ladaris Cordell, and tonight it's my pleasure to be in conversation with the four co-authors of the wonderful book, For Colored Girls Who Have Considered Politics. Together, they form a political supergroup they like to call the Colored Girls. And like many other women of color in politics, they are unsung heroes of public service who have dedicated their lives to demanding diversity in American politics. So the Colored Girls are Donna Brazile, Democratic political strategist, commentator, former interim chair of the Democratic Party. Yolanda Caraway, founder, president, and CEO of the Caraway Group. The Reverend Leah Daughtry, a political strategist who was the CEO of the 2008 and 2016 Democratic National Conventions. And Mignon Moore, partner of the Dewey Square Group, former CEO of the Democratic National Committee, and high-level member of the Clinton administration. Welcome. So, these four women have worked behind the scenes of some of the country's most influential and historic presidential campaigns in history. All four beginning their careers with the Reverend Jesse Jackson and eventually working with the likes of Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Barack Obama, and most recently, Hillary Rodham Clinton. These powerful women paved the way for many women and people of color currently in the political arena, and it is my pleasure to be in conversation with them tonight. So let us begin. I must tell you all initially, For Colored Girls, and by the way, I read it twice, it's a terrific read. It's part history, it's part memoir, it's many parts American politics, it's several parts drama, and major part wisdom and inspiration. And what I especially appreciated about your story is how your friendship allowed you to be honest with each other and with your readers about the good, the bad, and the ugly. So, first question, why colored girls? Why not black girls or sisters or black women or women of color? Why colored? Why girls? Who came up with this?
Well, good evening, everyone. I was not the designated opener. But I looked at them and they gave me that familiar smile and that said, Donna can talk, yay! Well, this is my third visit to the Commonwealth Club, so thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. And one other thing, I know a year ago when I was here, Mayor Lee passed away. Again, my sincere condolences to you all. He was a great man, a wonderful leader, and we all miss him. I know we do. Some of you might have heard that Gavin Newsom, Father Justice Judge Newsom, passed away earlier today, so we send our sincere regards to Governor-elect Gavin Newsom. So, why the Colored Girls? Has anyone looked at our birth certificates? Or our parents' or grandparents' birth certificates?
That's right.
I mean, once upon a time, we were colored. But more importantly, that evening in October of 1988, when Mignon and I served on the Dukakis campaign, we were told that that the leadership of the campaign was moving up to an upper floor and that everyone else would be somewhat downstairs. And we said, oh, hell no. So that day, we went up to the 9th floor at that anointed hour when people like to have some of the nice beverages from the state of California. And,
cocktails.
Yes. And we decided that we were not going to be separated from the so-called leadership because we felt like we were part of the leadership. And that afternoon, we wrote, For Colored Girls, we shall not be moved. And it was a statement to say that women, no matter your color, no matter where you come from, no matter what position you have in the campaign, this was your place in the room, at the table. That's why we're the Colored Girls, because we come, like all of you, in every shape, size, and of course, every living vision. So we're the Colored Girls, and we're proud of it.
And what Donna just described, that episode, it's in even more detail in the book. It's terrific how they roll it all out. So this book reminded me of this Academy Award-winning movie, Crash. It's in which the lives of several different people, they're all living in LA, unexpectedly, they come together. So this is from your book. We have, and just introducing you all, this is from the book, Leah, a black girl from Brooklyn. Yolanda, Leah, a black girl from Brooklyn. Yolanda, a black girl from Rochester, New York. Mignon, that girl from the south side of Chicago. And that little Donna from Kenner, Louisiana. Now, that's from the book. So your lives collided, resulting in a remarkable and long-lasting friendship. How your lives collided is described beautifully in this book. So two people with whom all of you were very close and who were responsible for connecting the four of you were ironically two men, Jesse Jackson and Ron Brown, Commerce Secretary in the Clinton administration. So what was it about these two men that drew you all to them and then to each other?
Well, I'll start. I met Ron. Met Ron Brown in 1980 when Senator Kennedy was running for president, and he came to Baltimore. In our church, my brother-in-law was a minister, and he was the head of the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. And so they did an event invited in Ted Kennedy. And I met several people that were working, several young African Americans that were actually working on his campaign back then, believe it or not. And then this young guest, he was kind of young then, very attractive, tall, black man walked in, and we all saw, all the women said, "Ooh, who is that?" But that was Ron Brown. That was the first time I met Ron Brown. And then after that, I went to, when I went to work for the DNC after Jimmy Carter lost, Ron and I started working the same day. And that was really interesting because a lot of things happened around then. Around that same week, there was a young governor from Arkansas who had just lost his election that came into the DNC, and he came in like twice a month and sat down and made fundraising calls, and that was Bill Clinton. And he just walked around introducing himself to everybody and was just the friendliest person. We thought he was great. And but Ron and I became very, very good friends. And as I said, we started work the same day. He was general counsel and deputy chair for the DNC. I worked in the office of the political director. But he became like my brother. He was really like a brother. And so we were very close during that time. And then, we kind of followed careers and everything. And when we got to Jesse's campaign in '88, it was like Ron wanted to be chair of the DNC, but nobody ever knew that. Probably I was one of the few people that knew it. And, I said to him, if you come and work on the campaign, do the convention, which was normal, that you could bring in another convention director. This may be the stepping stone that you need to get back into the DNC and be chair. And it was great. Right. It was right. That's
and you
what
were all
happened.
involved with Jesse at some point, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I first met Reverend when I was 6 years old, and he
He was tall.
he was tall. He was really tall.
And he had a big afro.
Best afro ever. And he was in Brooklyn working with, at that point, he was the leader of Operation Breadbasket, which was the economic arm of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And he'd come to Brooklyn to work with my dad, who was the chair of the New York Operation Breadbasket. We were boycotting the A&P supermarkets.
A&P, I remember
Yes,
those.
the A&P supermarket, because they they had discriminatory hiring practices. So I'm my father's oldest child, so I go everywhere with him. So he took me to the boycott, and Reverend was there that day. And so I just remember, I just kept looking up. Because he just seemed so like he just never ended, between the height and the width of the afro, it was just this major engineering feat. So that was my first encounter with him, and he's part of our family and our church orbit ever since. But when I went to college, I went to Dartmouth in New Hampshire the year that he was running for president, and I'd gone to Dartmouth the year that Ronald Reagan was elected. So to see the rise of Ronald Reagan Republicanism on a conservative campus was quite something, and I was there with Laura Ingraham and Dinesh D'Souza. It was lovely. My goodness.
I know, right? And she's
Yes, it was
insane.
lovely. It was lovely. They haven't changed much. So Reverend came to campus, and he was running for president. He'd been to our church to organize New York African American leaders, and his famous line at that meeting was, "I know y'all are saying run Jesse, but I don't want run Jesse run to become see Jesse run." So they agreed that they would support him. Some of them lied, but that's another story. So he, I went to college. He said, "Well, baby, since you're gonna be up there, can you help manage my campaign in New Hampshire?" I said, "Okay." "What does that mean?" He said, "We're gonna figure it out." And that's what we did. We figured it out. I think, and that was his first campaign. And of course, there was an '88 campaign. But we were, and as I say in the book, we were building the plane as we were flying it. Mm-hmm. And so we really didn't know anything about how presidential campaigns worked. None of us had ever worked on a presidential campaign before. But as a result of that campaign in '84 and '88, we got Ron Brown, who became the DNC chair. Every city across America had a black mayor on the strength of the millions of people that the Reverend's campaigns registered to vote. But, he also trained and allowed an opportunity for thousands of operatives of all races, all sexual orientations, all genders to be a part of his campaign. And so he took us into rooms we didn't even know existed. We had no idea what went on behind the scenes until the Jackson campaign. And one of the things that I'm always grateful to him about, besides all the rules changes and whatnot, was that he never went to meetings alone. He always took people with him. So
Thousands.
Oh. It didn't matter if it was a restaurant,
A posse.
it was a meeting. He believed in the principle of bringing other people along, and that was one of the things that he shared with us as we were going along, is that we had a responsibility to swing somebody else through. When you get into a certain position, when you get your seat at the table, it's not enough for you to be there and close the door behind you. You have a responsibility, an obligation
That's right.
to swing somebody else through. And those were sort of the lessons that I learned. And then I met these guys.
Oh,
Right. That's right.
Girls.
These girls. These
yes.
girls.
All in the book.
Yeah.
So what do you all make of the fact that 53% of white women voted for Trump?
Jesus.
And 94% of black women voted for Hillary. So what is going on here? Do you envision a time when a majority of white women in this country will unite behind a presidential candidate supported by women of color? And if so, who might that candidate be?
Well, I can tell you this. I don't know who the candidate would be, but I would hope that, we as women would do that, because I think our time has come. It is probably our time has passed. And I have said this often when we're out. Part of what I think women are faced with, especially women that are in leadership, I don't think America has really defined how we look at women in leadership. And I normally use Hillary, Maxine, and Speaker Pelosi. I will speak that into existence. I use them as an example because these women are in the highest positions of power, yet men, and sometimes women, treat them like they're less than. And I think that's partly because we just haven't established how we want to see. And I think some of it is men. But I would say, I pray that, we would come unto ourselves. I don't know what was going on with the 53%. Leah likes to say, which I think is true, they do vote their interests. But I'm hoping that they vote not just their interests, but the interests of America and the interests and the future of our children. And I hope it's on our side, by the way.
I personally believe we've
Yeah.
come a long way.
Yeah.
In 2020, we will acknowledge the 100th anniversary of women's suffrage.
Yep.
100th anniversary. And think about it. We're now one state away from the passage of the Equal Rights Amendment. One state.
Yep.
I remember when I first started teaching my gender and women's studies at Georgetown back in 2002, we were still looking at 3-4 states, one state. And if we decided to have a conversation about the ERA in 2019, many of us in this room would be called divisive.
Yep.
The problem is that women are divided along social, economic, and educational lines. And when I work in campaigns, I don't see black women as a monolith. I don't see Hispanic, Latinas, Asian Pacific Islanders, black women, openly gay, lesbian women. None of us are alike.
Us four up here are not alike.
Right.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Right? Donna finally got one in on us.
I will be the first
Normally,
to
we
admit-
getting them in
I
on
will
her.
be the
She finally
first to
got
admit
one.
At 10 o'clock at night, I am going to have a glass of wine at a bar if I can. I do not expect to see them, okay?
Oh,
They're
that's not fair.
No, because the two of you together.
I'm always with you.
Yolanda will come. But you know what? My knees are clean. I don't sit on my knees all day like Leah. That's because she's
She
a
means
pastor.
in prayer.
Prayer. That's
Right.
That's right. Just clarify.
Let me tell y'all, this is highly
that.
unusual. Donna get her zingers in.
True
Highly
that,
unusual.
True that. Oh, that's true. Y'all have muffled me.
I
Yes,
know.
we have.
They have
Well,
muffled
otherwise
me.
we don't. We
You didn't
can't
chance to
talk.
say anything.
It's the same problem my mom had when I was a little girl when she would say, "Shut up, Donna, shut up." I'm like, but I have another question. All right. So I do believe that we are on a trajectory. We are on a trajectory of changing American history. And when you go back, we're going to look at 2016 as that tipping point. I'm not going to judge not one woman who voted for Trump in any way, but I am going to hold them to a different standard come 2020. And we're going to have to do what Reverend Jackson taught us, which is to engage them.
Yep. Yep.
We have to find ways to empower them so they understand their voice and how they can make a difference.
But I think one step further, we need to engage them to understand their perspective.
Yeah.
Because when you start having these conversations, and at least on the Democratic side, it starts with, why are they voting against their interests? You have already defined who they are and what they
Right.
believe. And you cannot have a conversation and engage people in an authentic way with an assumption about their beliefs. So it seems to me the first conversation and engagement is, why did you vote that way? They may have very legitimate reasons that we need to hear,
Right.
really hear and
Well.
understand. And it's interesting when you talk about how it cuts across race and cuts across gender. What we see in this primary we just had is that white college-educated women
Well,
vote very differently
Yep.
from white non-college
Non-college educated
and it
and
is where
single
you
mothers.
and that is
Yeah.
where you see the real polemic. So you've got white non-college educated women who are voting for Kemp and against Stacey, against Andrew, and with Ted Cruz.
Right.
And college-educated white women are doing something entirely different. But I think that is a conversation we have to have
Yep.
with an open mind and with open ears, or it's just like anything. If people come with presuppositions, you cannot get to the next level of the conversation.
And I think a lot of them vote, they vote their husband's interest too.
Yeah.
A lot of them do
They
what their
matter.
husbands want them to
a
do.
lot of them are single and voting against their interests, but we have to work with them.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because if we empower them and they feel like they have something at stake, they are a formidable force in American politics. Now, some of us black girls can start slowing our roll a little bit. I mean,
Yes.
we carry. You look at
Some of us are tired.
Yeah,
yeah.
really.
and the battle scars that we bear when we stand up, not just for people of color, but for women too, we bear battle scars.
Yeah.
And then we're the ones who can't get ahead because we got a scar 2 or 3 or 4.
Right.
And yet, when you read our book, and the reason why we wanted to write this book is that when we got in the room, we opened that door for everybody.
Everybody.
Yep.
And the fact that we're still on the DNC, still Democrats, although one of my sisters sometimes gets shaky here.
She ready to go.
But we're on the Rules Committee for one reason, and that is to make sure that we finally reach our goal, which is equality and justice for all. I mean, that's all we want. We just want to be in the room
That's
when
right.
decisions are made. And I'd be damned if anybody tell me to leave the room until I'm ready.
Where's Donna? So you write in your book that there were divisions among the colored girls when the 2016 Democratic candidates for president were vying for your support. This is from the book. Mignon says, it was ugly. And Donna said, quote, yes, I'm black, yes, I'm a woman, but I'm getting old and grumpy, and I'm going to support John McCain if y'all don't stop.
It was 20.
Now,
Oh, that was 2008.
That's
That's
2008.
2008.
2008.
Well,
right.
2008. We
That's right, that
had
was
our
McCain.
battles both,
Right.
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
seasons.
2008.
So,
So,
in
right.
2022.
so who did each of you support and why? And in the end, did you all, I'm talking now about Hillary, all right? Did you fully support Hillary? And do you see similar divisions ahead for the 2020 Democratic Committee?
Oh,
Nominee,
yeah.
the nominee.
Oh, I think so. Because we have, I mean, first of all, we're going to have a plethora of everything and everybody running. So that's going to cause division in itself.
Thousands.
And then we're going to have probably, we're going to have white women. We possibly will have a black woman. We're going to have Hispanics. We're going to have white men, mostly old, but they'll
Old
be in
white
it.
men.
We'll have
A
them.
couple of them are young.
And
yeah,
then some
who?
young white men.
Beto.
Oh, Beto,
Pete
yeah.
Buttigieg.
No, but he's so
Two
new, you
separate
forget
kids. Yeah,
him.
the
Eric
old men and then the
Garcetti.
young men.
Well, that's the adult and the seniors.
Eric Garcetti?
Yeah.
He's young.
But he's Hispanic, isn't he?
No.
No.
Okay, well,
he's
Italian.
young white man.
Italian.
Italian, okay, got it. But anyway,
No, I
back
think
to your
his
question,
mother's
I think the
Hispanic.
real point is, I think we're going to have so many different people. It does split you. And that's what happened with us in 2008 with President Obama, especially for us. You're either female or you're black, and that's what Donna was referring to, and people wanted us to size it up like that. And we really spent a lot of time talking to these candidates, and it's in the book. We had all these dinners. It's the first time that we've actually talked about the dinners, but we had dinners with all of the candidates, and it's quite funny, too, so you should read some of them, so that if they're running, stay away from them, you'll know, because it's in the book.
And Mignon, tell them our guidelines. We had guidelines.
Oh, yes, we did. We had guidelines. First, we would invite you, the candidate, not you, the candidate, the spouse, and the staff. We really wanted to talk to you because we knew them all. So we felt like it was a time for them to just share their thoughts because we were coming as a resource, not as a endorsement committee. The
Before you
second,
go to Rule 2, didn't
Yeah.
Barack Obama break the rule?
oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He came
Two or
with
three of 'em.
He came with staff or something.
Yeah, he came with staff.
Yep.
And Vilsack came with his
And then they
wife.
put it in the press.
In the press.
All right, so that's Rule 1. Rule 2.
Yeah, Rule 2 was no press. And Rule 3 was you have to pay for it because we didn't want you to think that we were endorsing you. So if you paid for it, yeah, so that was fair. But the real
Remember
point
that.
is we really got a chance
They
to
pay.
listen to them. And so I ended up with Hillary. Although I had worked for President Obama for his PAC, I ended up with her because when I listened to the issues, I felt that she had a level of depth that I really wanted to see in a president. Having worked in the White House, you come with a different sensibility. And I think the second thing, too, was that I just wanted a woman. And I felt like I wanted to spend my time working for a woman. So those were my reasons.
Wow.
I mean, I was called, I think, the day that Hillary announced by Capricia, and who said that they were calling her longtime supporters to try to get them to max out this day. I said, but I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. And I hadn't. I wanted to see what Barack was going to do. And I held out, and I waited until I think it was maybe the fourth debate. I think it was in Philadelphia. And I saw that, when I watched that debate, I didn't see Hillary as a woman anymore. I saw her as a presidential candidate. And that's when I knew I was going to support her, because I really thought she was the best and the most qualified.
In 2008, I didn't wish or desire to endorse a candidate. I had real good reasons. One, I was still dealing with Hurricane Katrina and the aftermath, and my family became number one. Number two, I worked for CNN, and ladies and gentlemen, I needed the money.
That's right.
I mean, I was crying broke because my family was in 8 states and 14 cities. They were hurting and I was helping. And I think my sisters, we talk about that in the book, how they helped me and my big family get back home. And God bless them because my family's back home in Louisiana. Now, there was a time when they dropped me from the emails. These sisters can get cold. Like you think the Arctic is melting? Y'all haven't hung out with these women.
We
Okay?
will put you on an ice floe to Antarctica.
And
And then Donna will ease her way back in by emailing one of us, hey, what's going on?
I tell
Because
them
when you
about
mess
the
up,
weather.
you get dropped from the chain.
Yeah, I
Don't get
tell them
anybody
about the
email.
weather and a way to entice them. Like, I know it's going to be cold.
Yeah,
and
because we do
windy.
believe in her weather forecast.
I'm a good meteorologist, you know. But I decided on May 31st, 2008, that the decision, and we write this in the book, the decision to try to relitigate Florida and Michigan, which had broke the rules by trying to go ahead of the calendar when the quote-unquote the primary season begins, when that moment showed up, I had to make a big decision. And that day I sided with Obama. And that was May 31st, 2008. Of course, 2012, we did not have to declare whatever. And then, of course, in 2016, let me just say.
And there's
that's
2
another
points of views
chapter.
on this.
There's another.
Wait. Before you get off that point, because you know she will skate
I
out
was
here
on
on
the
her
rules
little
committee.
talking points. Before you get out here,
I was on the rules committee.
but Tina was too. So
Tina and I
Tina's
disagreed.
views are reflected in there too.
But Tina lost the battle.
Well, she didn't lose the
Well-
battle. Y'all turned on her.
Yeah.
No, not me.
Read the
Not
book.
me.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Read the book.
Read
I
the
didn't
book.
turn
I
on.
was chief of
She never-
staff at the DNC at that time.
She never had my vote. There were
I didn't
three
say
of
she
us.
had your vote.
There was 3 undecided people.
So let's.
So I was the chief of staff at the DNC at that time.
So
And so I had to be neutral. So I didn't.
That's right.
I couldn't choose a side.
That's right.
That's
And
right.
so I watched.
Lord,
All of the shenanigans, including the shenanigans that happened on May 31st, 2008, which is in the book. But also, so this actually, I've actually worked on. This will be my 10th presidential campaign, and this will be the first time that I'm not on the party's payroll, and so I get to choose
that's right.
Yes.
who I want to support. And so I'm very much looking forward to being courted.
So let's pick up. I'm going to pick up something here with you with Leah. Leah, you were the CEO of the Democratic National Convention twice, right? And this is the same convention, Democratic convention, that in 1964 refused to seat Fannie Lou Hamer from Mississippi. All right. So the amazing story of how you pulled that off is in the book, but it was in Las Vegas at the 2017 fall meeting of the Democratic National Committee after Trump had been elected that you, Leah, gave a rousing speech aimed at settling the matter of a black woman's place in the Democratic Party. So if you could briefly give us the backstory, why you felt compelled to speak out, what you said, what the reaction was, and then a question to all of you all is, do black women have a place in the Democratic Party? All right, so Leah.
So at that particular meeting,
So what happened was.
what had happened was we were in Vegas. Christine, were you there? Christine Pelosi is here.
Oh yeah,
She's
that's
one
right.
of our DNC
That's
members.
right. She was.
So it was,
That's right.
yes, it was something. So we got word that there were some factions who had decided that some of the black women on the DNC, the 3 of us, Donna Mignon, myself, and Simone Sanders, had been on the DNC too long and no longer should be serving. And so they were starting this rumor, and they were going to negotiate with the chair, Tom Perez, to have us removed. So I had to go back to my old movement days. So as I got, peeled back the story, and these two didn't come to the meetings. I was there by myself.
But we was helping her on the
were
phone,
supporting her in the
negotiating with
email.
people, talking to
They
people.
were doing what they do. They were making their phone calls, and Donna
Yes.
was talking to her favorite people in the press and whatnot. So it was fine. So by the time the last of the meeting came, I was the chair of Tom Perez's transition of when he became DNC chair, and so I was allowed to make my transition report. So I took a point of personal privilege to make my report and then make some other comments, which talked about the role of first of all, the role that I played in the party since Ron Brown was chair, and then the role that black women have played in the party for since we became Democrats.
That's right.
And that the litigation of these labels of progressive and who's more progressive and who's more liberal and who's more left and who's more center, as if those labels define who we are as Democrats, is problematic. And all I wanted to know is, are you going to help us feed the hungry? Are you going to help us house the homeless? Are you going to help us clothe the naked? Are you going to help us get
And
clean
all I
air,
wanted to know is, who are you? Reveal yourself to us, and we'll have a conversation.
If you're going to do all those things, then welcome to the Democratic Party. And if you're not, then get the hell out.
Yeah, right,
But let's not keep having these fights.
right.
So, apparently it was a good speech.
And it's in the book.
It's in the book in its entirety, but I was trying to surface a problem that is ongoing for people of color when we make strides and entree into these previously white spaces, which is that the rules begin to change. And suddenly, you need more qualifications.
Yep.
You need to know this fact. You need to know that fact. The bar gets higher as we begin to climb the ladder. And that is problematic. For us as black women, we invest too much in the party. And we need to see our investment yield some results. Now, we are happy with the people that we elect, but where's the money? When is the party going to invest in the African American community commensurate with the way that the community invests in the party? And that was my point that day.
Yeah.
Just remember 1 year ago tonight what we were celebrating. Those of us in the Democratic Party, we were celebrating the election of Doug Jones down in Alabama because of black women.
98%.
Historic turnout record. No.
On October 25th, 2005, Mignon got a phone call from a woman who had been a longtime friend of Rosa Parks, who had died just the day before. This woman had a request that sent the colored girls into action. And you all pulled off an amazing feat that involved Southwest Airlines, Condoleezza Rice, the first black president of Cal State, Los Angeles, a dose of gender discrimination, and a Bible. So if you can tell us what happened and what the Colored Girls' groundbreaking accomplishment was.
Oh, God, we can all feed into this story. She's right. I did get a call from Elaine Parks, and she was Mrs. Parks' longtime caretaker. And when Mrs. Parks came to Washington, we often had the opportunity to sit with her, listen to her, and most of the time we had her in our homes, because it wasn't like they had a bunch of money. So after she passed, Elaine then wanted to have a memorial service in Washington because she had spent so much time there. And so when she started talking about this memorial service, she said, we're going to bring the family, and we want to have her lie in state, and we want to have this, and we're going to then fly her from Alabama. And so me, I'm like a budget hawk. I'm like, okay, so is there a budget around this? Kind of. So that was like a stupid question. So that's when I knew. I'm like, did Leah, did Yolanda, did Donna, and then Tina, who's not here. And so the five of us came together because we felt it was so incredibly important that this woman left with dignity. And the fact that she was able to lie in state is
At the U.S.
because
Capitol.
of Speaker Pelosi.
Yep.
Now, don't tell me a woman can't run this world.
That's right. That's right.
Do not tell me that.
That is
I mean,
right.
did y'all see the speaker yesterday by chance? We're going to go back to Rosa.
She's a
Okay,
boss.
yes, okay. You know, we like people like that, just so y'all know. But anyway, so Donna called Condi. Condi got the plane. Leah had the DNC budget, and she wrote some checks.
I wrote some checks, yeah.
Legally.
But you know what was important?
Well, I was in charge of the budget.
Yeah.
So,
But you know what was important about that? We didn't just have a funeral service. Leah ended up having, like the story, she'll tell you about the story about the Bible, but we became Urshas. Now, there was one funny moment. It wasn't really funny at the time. So when the body got to the church,
left the Capitol.
it left the Capitol. I mean, it had this long procession, thousands of people. And so the body finally got to the church. And we had on these little walkie-talkie things, bodies arriving, bodies arriving. So we go out. I go out. Now, Donna's a Ursha. And this is how we are. We will take off all these titles and do what we have to do. Leah on the podium, Yolanda, Donna, and Tina. So I'm out there. And so I'm waiting for the gentleman to bring the body out, you know. So I'm like, okay. So, okay, here's the church. Take it up the steps. And they're looking at me like, ma'am, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you can't do that? It's not our jurisdiction. Like, huh? Well, they from the Capitol, so they couldn't transfer the body.
No pallbearers in.
No, we had to run inside,
We
get
didn't
the
know we
RO
needed them because we
Well,
thought the Capitol.
I was going to run inside, get the colored girls with their heels on if we had to, and take that body in that church. But then we had to get the ROTC. And so, but anyway.
ROTC.
Yeah.
But Rosa Parks, I hope
Yeah.
you all know her. She was a genuine. No,
Yeah.
we've
Well, we can't
been
make-
places.
Yeah, that's true.
And the young man said Jesse ran for president. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
So no, Rosa Parks was a genuine hero from
Yeah.
Alabama who refused one day, December 1st, 1955, to get up, and she was arrested because she would not go to the back of the bus. We wanted to give her as close of a state funeral as possible, and we did her proud. And it was a bipartisan moment, but you know, that's why I said the Colored Girls is a very inclusive club because Condi was a colored girl.
And then let me. And one of my most vivid memories that day is Speaker Pelosi had arranged for Mrs. Parks to lie in state, but she also arranged for the members to come and to see to come to the service. And when she got these buses for members of Congress to come to the service, and the first person off that bus was Nancy Pelosi.
Yep.
To come to pay her respects at Metropolitan AME Church to Rosa Parks, and the members just walked behind her.
Yep.
So tell us about that Bible now, that whole thing.
So I had been in the planning team, but then they put me on the program as reverend. So I was in my robe, so I had to go sit with the other pulpit associates up in the pastor's chapel, and we have issues around sexism in the church.
That's right.
And it's problematic. We don't have it in my church. In our denomination, 60% of the pastors are women. So that's how I was raised. So it's not familiar to me. So when I entered the pastor's office and I was the only woman, they didn't know who I was.
They ignored you.
They
right?
ignored me.
But you had on your pastor's robe.
And so I said, "Is there somewhere I can put my robes on?" They said, "Oh, just go." I was like, "Oh, yeah, no problem." So I put my robes on. They got me in the ear, told me about the casket and whether we gonna get. So we go downstairs to get lined up, and one of a very well-known, revered theologian had forgotten his Bible, and so he was reading the scripture. Now we're supposed to carry our Bibles with us to church, but okay. So that's how you train. You go into officiate. You carry.
Except for those of us that go on occasion.
But I mean, for the people, you be in robes, where's your Bible? What's the matter with you? So, I don't understand. Where'd you get trained? So anyway, he's a great, revered theologian whose name is in the book, but I will not say it because I know we're being taped. By that. And he took my Bible to find his scripture, and he didn't want to give it back. So I was like, now, should I be insulted that he won't give it back? Or should I be honored that it's this man whose books we all read in seminary that won't give me my Bible back?
And he didn't have one.
And he didn't have one. I was like, no, because I need my Bible for my scripture. But it was one of those moments when we line up. There's a protocol to how you line up to go into these things. It's the same everywhere. But I watched these men. They put Mrs. Parks' pastor, who's a woman, and me, we were the only two women, and they put us in the front of the line, in front of the ushers, in front. Y'all know that's wrong. The pastor of the church goes first
Right.
and leads the people in. But this is how they reject, and they had us seated on the lower platform, not with the others, not with the men.
See, they knew I was outside dealing with that casket because that wasn't supposed to go down like that.
And when they realized who I was, that I was the chief of staff of the Democratic Party who helped pay for this shindig, then they were like, oh, Reverend Daughtry, we need to have you come to our church. I was like, yeah, okay. Only if I can come and talk about womanism in the church.
Right on. Wow.
Praise the Lord.
That's funny.
So you all write, this is from the book. We hope that at least some of you who read this book will decide to run for office.
Yep.
Why is it that none of you have run for office?
No,
I run my mouth too much.
No.
I can't do it. I run my mouth too much. I get in trouble.
Yeah, I have never ever wanted to run for office. I like being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I did get a taste once, but it didn't last.
What?
I
Jesus
save all
Chair?
my diplomatic skill for
Oh,
church.
oh.
Yeah.
Between Jesse Jackson and Geraldine Ferraro, when I left Jackson 84 and went over to Mondale Ferraro,
Right.
and I organized Geraldine Ferraro's first rally in Harlem. She grew up in Queens, right? Yeah, and she had never been to Harlem. Well, I had been to Harlem, and that was that moment when that campaign ended. Mondale 84, Jackson, I had that bug. But I went home and helped Mary Landrieu become the first, well, I ran Mary Landrieu's campaign. I got it out of my system quick.
Interesting. So I'm going to pick up on something that you said, Donna, just now. So I think that most people, and that's including me, know or knew only the name Donna Brazile. So Mignon, Yolanda, and Leah, I learned your names from reading the book. And I learned that the three of you were doing challenging, groundbreaking work behind the scenes. And now you better believe I know your names. All right. So Donna, on the other hand, was out there on TV and dropping what I call these wonderful Donna bombs. All right. So for instance, here's a Donna bomb. If you're not at the table, then you're not on the menu. Right. And then another Donna bomb. I'm a tall, round, black tree shaker. Like it. Or
Not a
Donna's
jelly
description of how she became the first African American to run a major campaign is in the book. Knock, knock. Who's there? Al Gore. What the hell do you want? I need you to manage my campaign. That's how she described it. All right. So Donna, some of those Donna bombs landed you in hot water, and they're described in the book. They're described in the book, including your recent memoir,
Yeah.
and that caused some serious upset among the colored girls. So Donna, any lessons learned? Any regrets?
That's a different way of putting it.
You know, I don't know how you all feel, but I have to tell you, today was a tough day for me. Every day that you see something in the news about the Russian investigation is a day that I'm not sleeping well and I'm not feeling well. It was personal. It was raw. It was something none of you can imagine unless you were there. And there are some of my colleagues here, they experienced the same thing. To be attacked by a foreign government, a hostile foreign adversary, with the potential or probable help from other Americans to attack us. And when I say us, I'm not talking about down in Brazil, I'm talking about the Democratic Party, United States of America, Hillary Clinton on down, okay? Us. So, how do I feel about my book? I'm glad I wrote it. I wish I would have known more because I would have indicted all of them when I wrote the book. They belong in jail They belong in jail for treason, and they belong in jail for undermining our democracy and trying to destroy the Democratic Party and our nominee, Hillary Clinton. That's my 2 cents.
All right. So,
And were they upset? Yes. Are they still upset? Probably. But am I moving forward? Yes. Have they moved forward? I hope so. Thank you. God bless
Well,
everybody.
let's back up.
Yeah.
no.
Let's back up a little here. So, first of all, we have always acknowledged Donna's right to write a book. And I have personally acknowledged the fact that I felt like she was under extreme pain during the 216 part of the Hacks writing. But the challenge when she says we dissented or disagreed was not that she wrote the book. We thought the book was being written under a different auspices. Because when she first told us about the book, it's in the book, so we're not telling you any.
Chapter 24.
Yeah, there's no secrets here. We thought the book was going to be about something different, but it was not, unfortunately. It was about, it became a little bit about, and I think Donna, the lessons, I'm not putting words in her mouth, but we've had this conversation. I do think the lessons learned through this is while the book have some gems about Russia, what they chose to pull out of the book was what they tried to make the controversy, which was about Hillary, which was about, the party, like Donna spends all her life trying to destroy the party, and all of a sudden she's mad at the party. So that's the way the book became portrayed. But we were actually taken back by maybe more the press, because it was, when it came out, we hadn't read the book. We didn't know what was in the book. And so, all of our friends was calling us saying, did you know Donna wrote this? No, we didn't know she wrote it. But the point is, we respected her, and we never went out public because that's not what we do. We're not the housewives. We'll sit up here and have fun with each other. But let me just tell you, we live and die for each other because we know how tough this business is.
Yep.
And we cannot afford to show that light. But now behind the scenes, did she get dropped?
Yep.
Did we move her furniture? Yep.
Wow.
6 months.
Yeah.
6 months.
But you know what? And yes, we all have moved forward, but it was a difficult time, but it was a personal time for all of us. We were hurting.
Ooh, yeah.
We had just lost an election we all thought we were going to win. So,
in 5 minutes, we'll be taking your questions for the colored girls. So start thinking. If you have a question, just line up behind the microphone to your left near the door. So let's change up the pace and let's do a lightning round. All right? So I'm going to name some possible 2020
Oh, goodness.
Democratic presidential contenders, and I'm going to ask you all to give each a grade, A, B, C, D, or an F.
Why don't you give us
And
adjectives?
let me finish. I'm going to give it to you. You're going to grade them on 2 things: their ability to protect our democratic institutions
Okay.
and their ability to unify America. All right?
Oh, okay.
All right, here's the first one. Maxine Waters.
Are these 2020 people?
Yep.
Okay.
Maxine Waters.
Hot diggity diggity. What you want me to give her, a grade?
Yeah.
She gets an A. Hell, I'm going to support Arnie Max. I'm
Arnie
not
Max.
getting my ass whipped here. Hell no.
me,
Oh, no. I've had my fights with Maxine.
It's in the book. It's in the book.
Yeah.
It's in the book.
We kissed
Right.
and
Yeah, we
made
all
up on
support
that, too.
Maxine.
All right, all right.
Straight
I
A's.
kissed
So
and made up
straight
with
A's,
George Bush.
straight
I'll
A's.
kiss and
Straight
make up
A's.
with you.
All right, we're moving
Straight
on.
A's.
You ready?
Hell.
All right, Bernie Sanders.
A, B, C, D,
E, F, G.
E, G, G.
All right, moving on.
Let me just say, I would be interested in knowing some of his positions, so I could give him a grade, but
We just don't know
Well,
what it really stands for.
well, the other thing is that we just changed the party rules, so now you
Right.
must be a Democrat to run to
All right.
for the nomination. So
All right.
the first thing is he has to be a Democrat,
Yeah.
and then we can have a conversation about whether he can protect democratic institutions.
yeah, so.
Okay.
You know.
Kamala Harris.
I definitely think she can protect democratic institutions.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, I do.
I'm glad she back on judiciary.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Hot diggity dog. All right. Let's go. Next.
All right, next. Cory Booker.
A, B.
He could be a uniter.
Yeah, he could be a uniter. I
he's
think
got a
he
lot
could
of
be-
happy
He could
talk.
bring people together.
He does
Hope.
what?
Yeah,
He's got
one
happy
word
talk,
rep-
but in a good way.
Hope.
Happy talk.
Yeah.
Hope.
Yeah, he's very hopeful.
Yeah.
Very hopeful.
Optimistic. Good.
He brings you
I
up.
like adjectives. I like.
Yeah.
All right, we can
brings
do
you up.
adjectives. We don't have to
Yep.
do grades.
We're not doing-
All right.
He brings you up.
Elizabeth Warren.
She's very
Persistent.
very smart.
I would not sleep her.
Nope.
You know, but again, it goes back to how you see women, and she's a person I would not sleep.
Persistence.
I just would not sleep her.
All right. Joe Biden.
We love Uncle Joe.
We love Uncle Joe.
Uncle Joe would protect the country.
Yeah, he
for
would.
sure.
Isn't he love?
And
We do. We love Uncle Joe, and if Uncle Joe
we
wants
really
to
love
run,
Uncle Joe.
he should run.
All right. Beto O'Rourke.
He's excited.
That's Yolanda's boyfriend.
I like Beta.
She done replaced the party chair. We've had to tell her stop doing that in public.
You don't know
With
what he
Beto.
stands for. I don't know nothing. Do you know what district he represented in Texas?
What this?
Exactly.
San Antonio or
We
something?
El Paso. But you need to do
El
a
Paso,
little
that's
bit
what he
more
represents.
So if you
homework
guys
before
ever
you fall
believe
in
we were a little
love.
shallow, right there.
More homework before she falls in love.
Wikipedia, baby.
I didn't say I was going to support him. I just said I liked him. Okay. He's energetic.
We
and
do
he's
walk
young.
things
He's
back in
young, and
public.
and he's not as young as I thought he was.
We've
He's
been on
47 years
airplanes
old,
and
so he really
trains
is
Oh, now
older
she's
though.
saying he's too old for her.
And now she's talking. They don't
I thought he was much younger. I thought he was much
So-
younger.
Okay.
Oh,
All right. So
you have
great-
not
I
had a
think he has
drink.
great
I
potential.
promise you.
All right.
This is no
Great
alcohol.
All right.
I think he has great
Not
potential.
yet.
So now we're going to go to the audience Q&A.
Oh, Lord.
And as always, please, keep the answers short, end them with a question mark. And I ask you to follow the rule that I gave to lawyers in my courtroom when I was on the bench. And it was the rule of the 3 Bs: be clear, be brief, be seated. All
I
right?
like that.
So who's
Oh,
first
Lord.
up? First up.
Be clear, be brief.
Either during his candidacy or presidency, has Donald Trump ever reached out to any of you for your thought leadership or to consult with you? And I'm being very serious, like ever.
No.
He reached out to Donna through Twitter, but I don't know if it was for her thought leadership.
Oh, the tales we can tell. No, but we get one president at a time. We have 100 United States senators, 435 members of the House, 50 state governors. Of course, I'm from the District of Columbia, so I would like us to be recognized as a state at some point. But we get one president. And if there was one time I would have reached out to him, it was during Hurricane Maria. And I'll have to stop there because I can get emotional. I know the damage a storm can cause, and a fire, and a flood. And as Americans, you reach out, you want to help. But to sit in that White House and be so indifferent, and to throw things at people who may never, ever breathe again,
Right.
and to deny them their death, and the burying and mourning. I would have went over there, like I went over to George Walker Bush White House and said, Mr. President, let me help you, because it's clear that you don't know how to do your job. 2 snaps, bubble gum, and all.
So the answer is no, he has never
No.
reached out.
No.
No.
He-
Hi, I'm a college student. I'm born and raised in San Francisco, but I go to school in New Orleans, Louisiana.
yeah,
Oh, wow.
Where?
I go to Dillard University.
Yeah,
I'm an urban
level.
studies, public policy major, political science minor. I was wondering, as a young black woman interested in politics, how would I be able to put myself out there in this economy?
In this economy, you said?
Well, I feel like I'm not able to find internships that fit my interests. So how would you think that I'd be able to really find something that fits me in this society?
Well, as soon as we're done, you're going to get our email. You see our Twitter account. We do respond. And we will help you fit your interests, find your path, and also help you with your voice so that you can say it loud.
Yep.
Okay?
All
We
right.
got you.
Yep.
We got you.
Yep.
And we have a conference in New Orleans, Power Rising.
Oh, please come.
Come on.
Yes.
And bring your friends.
Power Rising. It's a gathering by, for, and about black women. It's February
Yeah.
21st to the
Please come.
24th in New Orleans. Come, send folk.
Yep.
It's a great time. It's unlike anything you've ever been to.
Be on the host committee. You can meet all the celebrities. You don't have to pay
Yes.
registration.
Be on the host committee, it's free.
Yeah, I'm just trying to tell you. I got this.
All right.
Next.
Oh, God.
So the climate of debate has changed dramatically since the last election, since this election. And so how can the committee prepare the candidate to go up against a person who is so prepared to be anything in order to be public, in order to get his voice across? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what he says or how he says it or when he says it. It's just to get his voice out there. How can the committee prepare somebody to be that viral, like Trump shutdown, just be able to do something like that?
We got the
that
question.
can be a hashtag.
We got the question. Go ahead.
I actually think, and if somebody else, but I actually think that is probably the question. And I wish I could tell you I had the answer. I just wanted to acknowledge that is the question, though. And that's the question that should keep all of us as Democrats awake at night. How can we prepare ourselves to go up against a person that just has no bottom? And he has the money, and we will have, because of our new rules, we will have our candidates, when we pray to God that they're not, knocking each other out, but they'll be knocking each other out till it gets time for the convention. And that very question that you're asking, we won't be able to answer because we won't have a nominee. But hopefully we'll do some of the same thing. I just pray to God we don't go to his level.
Yeah.
Now there's probably going to be some committees that's going to his level, but I hope that our presidential candidates can help lift us back up. But I mean, I'm not sure America's ready for the hope yet until we can show them how we're going to, keep their lives intact.
Well, Ladoris, I just want to acknowledge
The mayor.
our mayor, your mayor, I should say, London Bridge.
All right.
Yes. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud of her work, and I look forward to coming back for your reelection campaign. Since donations are $500, you can't give more. I love San Francisco. That's about all I want to give you. Thank you. I'm giving you my money, and I'm going back home. Okay, thank you. Great leader. You all did the right thing. So thank you, San Francisco. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Another question.
We're going to take the next 3 audience questions.
All right.
Hello. My name is Camila Ahmed, and I am a community organizer and a political activist based out of Alabama. I had the opportunity the past year to work with Doug Jones and on a Democratic congressional campaign. And as a Black woman and a millennial, fighting voter suppression and getting people registered to vote, cynicism is tempting, right? So for you guys, where do you guys draw your inspiration from, and how you guys hold on to hope?
Okay.
Good.
Ooh, that's a good question.
We'll give that to the preacher.
Yeah, right.
Thank you so much. Hey, I'm a regular member at St. Mattress and Bedside Baptist.
For the record, she would not be the preacher. This is the preacher.
I was trying to help. Just because I'm Catholic don't mean I can't preach.
What
They
was
don't allow
Jesus-
y'all. I'm just saying.
Things are changing.
So,
Okay, well,
And I'm going to remain a
maybe
Christian
in-
because
maybe-
what
maybe in-
was Jesus' first
okay.
miracle?
You gonna make me go
Lord.
all theological you on this water wine business. And let's not do
Jesus
that. You want me to pull
Can
out
we
my
answer
green
the
and
young
red
lady's
can?
question?
so let's
Let me
talk
answer the
about
question.
inspiration,
And
resilience.
California, you all should love that.
All right.
Water into wine. Go ahead, inspiration.
Well, clearly, I'm a faith leader and I'm a person of faith. So that is the foundation of everything for me. And I think all of us, regardless of whether you're a believer or whatever your faith tradition is or is not, you've got to be anchored in something. And whatever your values are, they have to be rooted in you, because that is out of what your work comes. And if you're just working for the victory or working for the winning candidate all of that is temporary. And it fades away. But if you're working because you believe in peace, if you're working because you want a better future I have nephews, I'm child free, but I got nephews. If that's where your inspiration is, for me, it comes from my faith and what I believe about who God is and what God wants for me in my life, and then out of that I act. But you gotta have that thing that is anchoring you, that is grounding you, so no matter what happens, if your candidate wins, your candidate loses, you return to the source out of which your work comes. Beyond that, you end the win. You end the win, and it's all temporary, and it's easy to get discouraged. If you've got something bigger, then you keep your eye on what's bigger. And so what's beneath that,
That's right.
may come, may go, doesn't matter. For me, that's God. God doesn't change. By whatever name you call him or her, she doesn't change. She is constant. He is there, and that's what I keep my eye on.
So,
And in the end, what I believe, in the end, it's going to be all right. And if it's not all right, then it's not the end.
Yeah.
so can everybody give the preacher a hallelujah? Now, that was the words of optimism. That
See,
was
when the
from
preacher
source.
preaches, you're just supposed to say amen.
I said amen. I said amen. Amen. I just want to give you from the activists, okay? Okay, and there are activist preachers, of which she is one. But I take the Harriet Tubman model that
There you
Beyond
go.
always remind me.
I was gonna give it
Harriet
to her.
Tubman,
A great woman of faith.
A great woman, a tremendous woman of faith. She led the Underground Railroad. And here's what she told her passengers. She said, if you hear the dogs, keep running. If you see the lights, keep running. If you have a taste of freedom, you keep running. And so my recommendation to you is that if you have a taste for freedom, you keep
going.
fighting.
Keep right.
You keep going. And that's what keeps us going. She calls it faith. I call it activism. But it's the same thing.
Yep.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
All right. Next question.
I'd like to go back to the question that you were asking earlier about all the candidates. Let's assume, and it's a good assumption, that any Democrat would be better than any Republican.
That's a great
So I'd like to ask each of you to name, right, as you see it now, which one candidate has the best chance of winning in 2020? Because that's the most important thing.
Thanks, too early.
It's far too early.
Way too early for
We
that.
can't tell you what's going to happen next week. Because we don't know in 9 days if we're going to keep this government function or Donald Trump going to shut it down. Because that's what he said he would
And you
do.
know, it's too early because you really don't know until you see people in the crucible of a campaign with all the pressure and all the things that pop up and how they respond on the spur of the moment. Until you see people in that setting, you really don't. They can have all the great ideas in the world and they won't go anywhere because they can't respond in the moment and they aren't able to deal with the pressures
Yeah.
of the campaign, and they melt down right in front of your eyes.
Yep.
And so that's why I think it's too early.
It's just way too early.
And look, nobody's announced yet, so you know.
That's right.
Well, one of them
got-
did today.
yeah.
Well, who?
Yeah, he's
We got exploratory. Well, we got John Delaney from
Yeah.
Maryland.
Oh,
who's
John
announced.
Delaney
The
announced,
guy
okay.
who just lost to Joe Manchin is announced. Higginlooper. We got too many. But
Here's the other thing you should know. Every cycle, there are about 150 people who file to run for president. Every cycle. They go down to the FEC and they file their paperwork. And, you know, some of them, most of them you never hear of. But it's about some brave soul. They go down and fill out the paperwork, bless their hearts. And it's about 150 of them, honestly, that you have to then navigate through to see who's gonna rise and who's gonna surface.
so when I was
know,
Al
sir-
Gore's campaign manager, he looked at me and he said, who should be my vice president? I looked at him and he had these steely blue eyes. And I said, Tina Turner. My thing was, what's love got to do with I'm Proud Mary? But, you know, of course, didn't win that one either.
But you know, what I would say to you, sir, and to anybody in this room, part of the challenge for any presidential candidate, you know the people that are out here thinking about it, and I think you have to put yourself in the position now to interview people
Yep.
or their teams on who you think you might want to align with, because some of these candidates get propelled just by the fact that they have voices around them and supporters. So if you, for example, if you like Beto or Kamala Harris or, Elizabeth Warren, then that's what we do.
Yep.
We talk to them because we want to know. Because by the time you get to the voting booth, somebody else has already told you who to vote for. Either their ads, and I think we're at a point now where this young lady is absolutely correct. We are trying to figure out not only do we have a president that can bring us back up, but can we have a president that can actually beat him? So I say to each one of you in this room, please start looking at these candidates very closely and get very vocal about it.
Yeah.
If there's something you love about them, put it out there, because it might be something we don't see. But I wouldn't sit on the sidelines letting people, because you know what? Then you'll say, we don't want an anointed candidate.
Right.
So get involved.
And I think something you really have to look at is who can go up against this fool?
Yeah.
Be nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to have to be a certain kind of person who
Yep.
can go up against him. And that's what we've got to have.
Do we have another question?
This is our last
Last one.
audience question.
All right.
Hello, my name is Michelle. I'm out of Kansas City, Missouri, and I was wondering, you mentioned earlier about Black women doing the work and not being positioned. What are ways we can better be positioned in politics? When you hear all of the names being thrown out for presidential, hopefuls, I don't hear Stacey Abrams, although she ran a magnificent race in Georgia.
Good.
So what are the kind of practical things that we can do to better position Black women in politics? How do you, what are your tips for having a long-lasting career in politics? I work on campaigns also, and to say this is difficult is an understatement. And then how do we, as Black women or women of color, create the great support system that you all have so that we can last in this field?
Just ask 5 questions.
3
because
questions.
All of us could answer.
Compound and complex, but we'll go ahead.
Yeah, they're
All right, go
very
ahead.
good questions.
Good.
Start early. Don't wait to be asked. Find role models that are relatable, people that are accessible, and people that you can follow their careers. I can't tell you the number of people that I simply followed their career. I followed the career of Barbara Jordan, although I was in Louisiana, she was in Texas. I followed the careers of just about every woman, Bella Abzug, Shirley Chisholm, everybody I could think of when I was a young girl down in the segregated South saying, I want to be like her, I want to be like her, I want to be like her. And so that's how you get involved. And then you find people to mentor you, you get involved. And don't look for a sexy title and a lot of money.
Right.
Yes.
Because we can tell y'all up front, it don't pay. I mean, really, some days I'm broke, busted, and disgusted, and I have to call Mignon and get my hope back up, okay? I call Leah when I'm on my last leg, but Lord, if I need a drink, I'll call Yolanda. I ain't messing with these other girls. I ain't messing with them. I ain't messing with them. They tell me I have to stop. Really? I'm too old to stop. But find something.
Find someone or something.
Find someone or something that you're passionate about. Here's the other thing about us. While we love electoral politics, we've been involved in governing in all aspects of politics. And so there's so much you can do by serving, because this mayor has to appoint people to positions, boards, and commissions.
Right.
You may not run for office, but you want to be on the board or commission. And so find your path, and it's out there. And some of you might find what I call a nice path. People like me, I like to beat the crap out you, okay? I want you gone. Back home, of course. But my point is, find your way. And we all have different manners in politics. I'm the one, I was shocked one day when Leah spoke up at a rules meeting. I'm like, church lady speaking. Oh my God. And she started something. That's why we now got rules that you got to be a Democrat to run for the Democratic
That was me.
nomination.
That's right. Come on, Leah.
So be who you are and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Eat it in the moment. And you know what? If you don't find friends like we have found each other, there's somehow the universe will make sure you're surrounded by people who have your same value system. We all have the same value system. We're different. We drive different cars. We have different tastes in everything. They even came to my house one day and changed my furniture. And I'm so scared of them that they're gonna talk behind my back and drop me off that I haven't changed it back.
And she got this little bitty tree because we moved her Christmas tree.
They did that too.
It was just all wrong.
But you know, can I just say to the
Go
young,
ahead. There was no
You know,
feng shui at all. It was
first of all, you know, you look at us. Most of the jobs we've had have been unpaid, and we see public service as a gift. And I think if you look through that lens, that when you are serving others, it's a gift, then you will stay encouraged. You will find your way. When the mayor gets ready to run again, you'll find your way to that. You'll find your way to a local campaign. It will not have a title. It will not have, sometimes it won't even have a friend. But public service is the most noble thing you can do. And so I just say go for it.
And the last thing I would also, in terms of positioning black women and how we move more black women, we've got to support them.
Yeah.
Right? So
Right.
if you don't hear folks, and it's been a bane of my existence after this last race, everybody talking about Beto. Beto's great, but what about Andrew and what about Stacey? Why aren't we talking about them? But that's on us to keep talking about it, to call the news station and say, why aren't you talking about Stacey Abrams? To support women who are running, not just from your couch. Send them $5 if that's what you have. Go volunteer. Do something to push them forward and to support them once they get to office. And then finally, once they're in office, hold them accountable.
Yep.
I always tell people, if you're elected, these people work for you.
Right.
You have hired them to do a job. I have never been on a job where I am hired and the boss don't come and check on me. There's
Well,
a
she's always
performance
been in
evaluation.
charge, so that's a little misleading.
Have you ever worked on a job where they hire you and you never ever see the boss ever again? Somebody's coming to see if you're doing your job. That's what we have to do with our electeds. Make yourself a nuisance. Your city council person ought to know your name. And when they see you coming, they ought to say, "Oh Lord,
Where'd that come from?
trouble.
That's right.
She gonna have
Here
a
comes
question."
trouble.
We gotta hold them
Hold them
accountable.
accountable, yeah.
Election day and the activity. Mignon says, "What's the thing you say all the time?"
I say voting is not an event. It is a way of life. And you got to say it every day.
all the time, and part
Yep.
of that is keeping people accountable, staying engaged between election day. So that you have the government that you want. If you never hear from your boss and you know they never gonna show up, you gonna do
Whatever you want to do.
what you want to do. But if you know you're gonna be someone is holding you accountable, and you've got to produce for the boss who is coming, then you work a little bit differently.
So, very sadly, I must bring this program to a close. And I'm having a good time. We all are. Truly, this has just been remarkable, inspiring. So, it is an in-forum tradition to ask all of our guest speakers the following question. In 60 seconds, give us your idea to change the world. Who wants to go first?
Since Donna won't do
I
60 seconds.
think we all have to start talking to people that we don't normally talk to.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
If I could change the world, I would try to say to young adults and millennials, the leadership line is short. Just get in it. Nobody's in your way, and we will help you take away all those things, because you are our future. So we need you in that line. And I know the world will change if you're in that line.
If I could do anything, I would make it a requirement that every American has to work for their government. At least 6 months, a year, something, because I think so many of us don't understand what our government is or does. And if we had to spend a year of our life, like in Israel, you have to
right.
sign up,
The
you have to be in the
military.
military. If you had to spend a year working for government at some level, I think it would change the way we interact with government and the way we interact with our electeds and the way we understand issues and what government really is and does. And I think it would change our whole conversation.
It's good. You want me to go first? Or you?
Go first. I already went.
She went. She was
She said
30
2
seconds,
words. That's
okay?
fine. 60
You said 60.
I
That's
know,
right.
but
Go right
she did
ahead, Donna.
30.
You need a timer?
And you don't get to use her 30. You just give it this.
See what
That's
I
the
have to go
judge.
through? Well, I'm very simple. I would open up a bank of justice. And the reason why is that every day there's a child that is born to a family that might be homeless, might not, have enough money to feed that child, but somehow those parents have to figure out how to take care of that child. I think we need a bank of justice. After my dad, who was a Bronze Star, 4 Bronze Stars in Korea, came home and started his family with my mother. They raised 9 children. We were born at Charity Hospital. We need a bank of justice so every child get a head start and a healthy start in life.
Yep.
That's what I would want.
Yeah,
Thank
I like that.
So, as we wrap up, thank you, Donna Brazil, Yolanda Caraway, Reverend Leah Daughtry, and Mignon Moore. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
joining us here tonight at Inforum. And the Colored Girls will be signing copies of For Colored Girls Who Considered Politics in the lobby shortly. I'm Ladaris Cordell. Good evening. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Sorry.